Picture this: a tool originally built to write computer code just spent 12 minutes doing what a junior analyst does in a full 8-hour day, and it didn't ask for a coffee break. On the 2nd of June, 2026, OpenAI announced a major expansion of Codex, its AI coding agent, and aimed it squarely at white-collar work. That's the office jobs we always called safe: the spreadsheets, the reports, the research memos, the slide decks. For years, the story we told ourselves was simple: robots take the factory jobs, and knowledge workers stay safe behind their laptops. Codex just flipped that script. Think of it like hiring a brand new employee who never sleeps, reads 10,000 pages in a second, and works for cents an hour. OpenAI says these new Codex tools can open your files, browse the web, fill in forms, and chain together dozens of steps to finish a real task from start to end, not just answer a question, but actually do the job. And the early numbers are staggering. Internal tests reportedly cut multi-hour workflows down to single-digit minutes. This isn't a chatbot that gives you advice. It's a digital worker that takes the assignment and hands you back the finished result. So what exactly did OpenAI build? Why now? And why are economists suddenly very nervous about the people whose jobs were supposed to be the future-proof ones? Let's pull this apart, piece by piece, because the details are wilder than the headline. So how did a coding tool end up gunning for office jobs? Let's rewind. Codex isn't new. Back in 2021, OpenAI first built a model called Codex that could turn plain English into working code. It became the engine behind GitHub Copilot, the autocomplete that millions of programmers now lean on every day. Then it went quiet for a few years while the world obsessed over chatbots. But in 2025, OpenAI brought the Codex name back, this time as something far more ambitious. Not a model that suggests code, but an agent that does the work. Think of the difference like this. The old Codex was a calculator: you typed, it answered. The new Codex is more like an intern you can send off with a to-do list. It plans, it acts, it checks its own work, and it comes back when the task is done. The leap that made this June announcement possible is something researchers call tool use. Instead of being trapped inside a chat window, the AI can now click buttons, open applications, read documents, and navigate websites, the same way you would with a mouse and keyboard. OpenAI spent the last year teaching it to handle longer and longer chains of steps without losing the plot. And once a machine can reliably string together 50 steps in a row, the kinds of jobs it can touch explode overnight. Which raises the obvious question: what does this thing actually do at a desk? Let's get under the hood, because this is where it gets interesting. The new Codex isn't one tool, it's a bundle. There's a version that lives in your terminal for engineers, a version that runs in the cloud handling many tasks at once, and crucially, a version aimed at people who have never written a line of code in their lives. That last one is the big deal. Under the hood, every one of these uses the same core trick: an AI model paired with a sandbox, a safe, walled-off computer where the agent can run programs, open files, and test its own results without touching anything important. Imagine giving a new hire a practice computer that's an exact copy of the real one, so they can make mistakes safely. That's the sandbox. The model writes a plan, executes a step, looks at what happened, and adjusts over and over, like a person hitting run and reading the error message. OpenAI claims the latest version can operate autonomously for far longer than before, handling tasks that used to break older agents after just a handful of steps. To put a number on it, the company says the agent can now sustain complex workflows for the better part of an hour without a human babysitting it. An hour of unsupervised, competent work is a genuine threshold. But the most surprising part isn't the technology at all. It's exactly who OpenAI built this for. So what does a day of Codex doing white-collar work actually look like? Let's make it concrete. Say you're a financial analyst. Normally, you'd spend 3 hours pulling quarterly numbers from a dozen reports, dropping them into a spreadsheet, building charts, and writing a summary for your boss. With the new Codex tools, you describe the task once, and the agent opens the reports, extracts the figures, builds the spreadsheet, generates the charts, and drafts the memo start to finish. Or picture a marketing coordinator who needs to research 40 competitors, log each one's pricing into a tracker, and flag the ones who changed prices this month. That's an afternoon of mind-numbing copy-paste. Codex treats it as a single instruction. OpenAI showed examples spanning legal document review, customer support workflows, data cleanup, and report generation, the unglamorous backbone of office life. Here's a number that lands hard. Tasks that took a person several hours were completed by the agent in minutes, at a cost of roughly a few cents in computing power instead of dollars in salary. Think of a calculator versus an abacus, except this calculator also files your taxes, books your travel, and writes the apology email afterward. The point isn't that it's smarter than you. It's that it's tireless, parallel, and absurdly cheap. And that combination is exactly what makes the people who run companies sit up. But here's the twist nobody expected. The tool's biggest weakness might be the very thing that saves those jobs. Now let's stack this against what came before, because the leap is bigger than it looks. A year ago, the best AI office assistants were basically smart autocomplete. You'd ask a question, get a paragraph back, and still do 90% of the work yourself. They'd lose track after a few steps, invent a fake fact, or freeze the moment a task needed real judgment. The new Codex tools are playing a different sport. Where the old assistants handled maybe 3 or 4 steps reliably, OpenAI says this generation chains dozens together and recovers from its own mistakes. Compare it to a human worker and the math gets uncomfortable. A skilled analyst costs a company well over $100,000 a year, needs sleep, takes holidays, and does one task at a time. Codex runs around the clock, spins up many copies at once, and bills in pennies per task. But and this matters, humans still crush it on the things that don't have a clear right answer. Reading a room, knowing which client will be annoyed, sensing when the data smells wrong. The AI is a sprinter on well-marked tracks and a toddler in open fields, so the real comparison isn't human versus machine. It's the human who learns to direct these agents versus the human who pretends nothing changed. One of those two just got a massive promotion. The other just got a deadline. And that gap is where the next part of this story turns genuinely uncomfortable. Here's where the stakes get real. For decades, the advice was simple: learn knowledge work and you'll be safe. Go to university, get a desk job, push paper, and let the machines handle the heavy lifting. Codex aimed at white-collar work quietly tears that promise up. Economists have been warning that this category of job, analysts, paralegals, junior accountants, support staff, entry-level marketers, sits right in the blast radius. These are roles built on exactly the kind of repeatable, document-heavy, multi-step tasks the new Codex eats for breakfast. One widely cited estimate suggests up to 300 million jobs worldwide could be exposed to automation by tools like this. That's not 300 million people fired tomorrow. Exposure means parts of the job change, not that the whole job vanishes. But the entry-level rung is the scary part. If a single experienced worker plus an army of agents can do what a team of 5 juniors used to, where do tomorrow's seniors come from? You can't become a veteran without first being a rookie. There's an upside too, and it's genuine. The same tools could hand a one-person business the output of a 20-person firm, letting small players punch wildly above their weight. The technology is neither savior nor villain. It's a multiplier. The real question is who gets multiplied and who gets subtracted. And that depends almost entirely on something most people are getting completely wrong right now. So how do you actually get your hands on this? And more importantly, stay on the right side of it? Let's walk through it plainly. The new Codex tools roll out through OpenAI's paid plans, with the coding-focused versions living inside developer tools and the broader white-collar features arriving for business and enterprise accounts. You don't install some scary program. For most people, it shows up as a new option inside the ChatGPT interface you already use, a place to hand the agent a task and watch it work, step by step, with permission prompts before it does anything sensitive. The smart way to start is small. Pick one boring, repeatable task you do every week, reformatting a report, pulling numbers into a sheet, summarizing a stack of emails, and hand it over as a test. Watch what it gets right and where it stumbles. Always keep a human checkpoint on anything that touches money, contracts, or customers, because the agent is confident even when it's wrong. Treat it like a brilliant intern, not an oracle. The single most valuable skill emerging from all of this isn't coding. It's learning to write clear instructions and verify output fast. The people who thrive won't be the ones who fear the tool or the ones who blindly trust it. They'll be the ones who learn to manage it like a tiny team. And that mindset shift is the whole ballgame heading into the rest of this year. So here's what this actually means for you today. OpenAI pointing Codex at white-collar work isn't just another product launch, it's a signal flare. The line we drew between safe office jobs and automatable ones just got erased, and the tools that can read, plan, click, and finish a real task are no longer a demo. They are shipping, and they are cheap. But the takeaway isn't panic, it's positioning. The worker who spends an afternoon this week learning to hand a real task to one of these agents will be worth far more in 6 months than the one who waits to see how it shakes out. The skill of the next decade isn't doing the work faster. It's directing the machines that do the work and knowing exactly when to overrule them. The jobs most exposed are the repeatable, multi-step ones, so make your value the judgment, the relationships, and the questions a machine can't think to ask. That's the high ground, and it's still wide open. We're going to be tracking every twist of this rollout, the wins, the failures, and the fallout as it unfolds, because this is the story of the decade and it's only just starting. If you want to understand the AI shift before it reshapes your industry instead of after, this is the channel for it. Follow for daily AI news, and I'll see you in the next one. There's a lot more coming.